From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Thanks, Ollie Barrett. Hello there, welcome to the programme. I hope you've had a good old Thursday. I hope your Thursday was better than my Wednesday, which I'll tell you about briefly in a second. It is September 13th, 2018. My name is Richie Allen. I've got two terrific guests. This particular programme, I think you're going to like them a lot. And controversial subjects abound on this particular show. Let's get on with it then.
Richie Allen.
It's the Richie Allen Show. Broadcasting live on richieallen.co.uk and multiple platforms around the world. And now, here's your host, Richie Allen.
Now, the political activist, the feminist campaigner, and the blogger Posie Parker joins the programme this hour. And we're going to talk about her experiences in recent years taking on what she believes is a trans cult. Now, this has come up on the programme several times, this issue, in the last couple of years. I would obviously be very sympathetic with much of what Posie has to say. We'll try and put the devil's advocate side of things to her as we speak to her. She's a very interesting woman. Had a chat with her earlier on. I like her, and I'm looking forward to hearing from her today. And in the second hour of the show, the author and journalist Jill Henderson joins us live from Missouri. You heard Jill speak to me a few months ago for a few minutes when I was chatting with her husband Dean. She's a fascinating and extraordinary researcher in her own right, and we're going to talk about Monsanto. We're going to talk about GMO foods and why Jill believes that whether you are awake to what GMO foods can do to you, whether you know all about that, she reckons you're getting it in your diet anyway. That's serious, that, and we'll talk about that in the second hour. As usual, you can tweet the programme during it. It's at Richie Allen Show. That's how to tell me what you're thinking, and I look forward to that. All right. Well, yesterday morning, I was travelling down Wilmslow Road, very busy thoroughfare in the city. I'd come off Maldeath Road for my Mancunian friends. I made a left to go south towards the city, towards a supermarket there, and I was smashed into by a lady driving a big people carrier. It absolutely shocked the bejesus out of me. I've never been in a car accident. Honestly, I never have been. And my car is absolutely smashed up. I was smashed up a bit. I've got, I'm okay-ish. I've got wicked pain in my shoulder and in my neck, which I'm taking painkillers for. But it could have been a lot worse. And it took the guts of my morning and early afternoon dealing with it, the recovery nonsense, then speaking with the insurance carrier, then speaking with my solicitor. It was an absolute nightmare. The lady involved was okay, thank God. She's at fault, there's no dispute there. What a mess, to be honest. And never having been in a car crash, it was a bit of a fright. And I could have done the show yesterday, even though I'm in a bit of discomfort, because I don't lift anything, I don't carry anything. I sit up straight and I talk directly into a microphone, which is what I'm doing now. I'm a bit sore and I'm a bit bruised, a bit sad, to be honest, that the car is absolutely, to use that great American colloquialism, totaled, because I know it's only metal and plastic, but I like that car. It was an old Ford Focus estate. It had the presence of our dog Jazz all over it, and we drove all over the country in it, but it's only a car, I suppose. So a little bit rattled, but otherwise I'm all right, and thanks for the tweets that you sent me yesterday. Most important thing is the lady and myself, we live to fight another day. All right, there you go. 6.5 minutes, nearly 7 minutes past the hour. Well, the Russians have spoken. So they have. Two men, as you heard Ollie Barrett tell you in the news at the top of the hour, two men who have been blamed by the UK authorities for poisoning the Skripals and for murdering Dawn Sturgis. These two men, we know them now as Alexander Petrov and Ruslan Bashirov. They spoke to RT exclusively and said they'd travelled to Salisbury on the recommendation of friends. They were tourists. They're not happy about being accused of murder and attempted murder. Here is the RT mini feature. Have a listen.
Alexander Petrov and Ruslan Bashirov were identified by Britain earlier this month. Now, it's claimed they both work for Russia's Foreign Military Intelligence Service, the GRU. Here's some of what they told us.
You called me on my cell phone and told me that you're Ruslan Bashirov and Alexander Petrov. You really look like the pictures shown to us by the UK. Who are you?
Вы реально похожи на то, что нам показывали из Британии, на те фотографии и на те видео. Вы на самом деле кто?
We are those who were shown to you in the pictures, Ruslan Bashirov and Alexander Petrov.
Are those your real names?
Yes, they are our real names.
Even now when you're talking about it, to tell the truth, you look very nervous.
What would you look like?
When your life is turned upside down in a moment, in just one day, and changed our lives.
On the CCTV footage from London, you walk on those now famous coats and sneakers in Salisbury. Are these people you?
Yeah, that's us.
What were you doing there?
Our friends had been suggesting for a long time that we visit this wonderful town.
Salisbury? A wonderful town?
Yes.
There's the famous Salisbury Cathedral, famous not only in Europe, but in the whole world. It's famous for its 123-meter spire. It's famous for its clock, the one of the first ever created in the world that's still working.
Yeah, hard to laugh when the interviewer said, Salisbury? Really? She'll never be welcome in Salisbury, I don't suppose, in the near future. So the boys have been accused of acting and that they have been coached. They've been accused of fabricating the story, which, to be fair, does sound a little bit preposterous. Now, I'm not saying for a minute the two lads were involved in any attempt to murder the Skripals. I'm not saying that. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying their own story. Everybody lies. Everybody lies every time, all the time. The government here lies. The Russian government lies. They all lie. I don't know what's going on. The boys also said, the boys, we'll call them the boys now, rather than repeat their names over and over again. They want an apology, goddammit.
You can't imagine what it's like. We'd like if one day the real perpetrators are found and we're given an apology.
Когда-нибудь отравителей найдут, то хотя бы перед нами бы извинились.
By who? The perpetrators?
By UK authorities. I'm lost. I don't know what day it is. We can't go outside. We can't go to the petrol station. You can't imagine what our lives turned into.
Now, last night, the Russian President Vladimir Putin said there's nothing criminal about them, and he called them civilians. Now, Oliver Kahn is a very senior journalist at the Times of London, the Times newspaper. He's not impressed with their story one bit.
It's obviously a grotesque pantomime, Kay, which must be the point of it. It's so obviously barefaced lying about a murderous attack that it invites derision. The problem for us commentators and for policymakers responding to this murderous attack is that it's designed to provoke laughter, and that is not, to say the least, it's not funny. Someone has died. 3 people, in fact 4 people, have been made seriously ill by the deployment of a nerve agent in a British town, and the 2 prime suspects have had the opportunity to vent this absurd story on Russian state propaganda without being tied down, without being questioned properly.
Yes, the irony, of course, he's talking about Russian state propaganda while he's speaking to UK state propaganda, Sky News. So he's not happy. Right, so he vented his spleen there in his very clipped public schoolboy accent. So Kay Burley is interviewing Oliver Kahn. Next question from Kay. Well, it might be, how can you be sure, Oliver? Maybe they're telling the truth. But no, Kay joins in with him and gets all sarcastic on our ass.
Lucky as well is the hotel that they stayed at is the same hotel where whoever did plant the Novichok, they actually stayed in the same room because there were traces there, which is hugely unlucky for these 2 men, if indeed we are to believe their story.
Yeah, stop with the unlucky shit, Kay. Just say it's an extraordinary coincidence. Stop being sarcastic. Your job is to present the other side of it. That will be true, Kay, if we accept the government narrative that they found Novichok in the hotel. This is the same government that wants us to believe that the two men smeared some Novichok on the Skripal's door handle and then just discarded carelessly this vial of Novichok, which was picked up by this man who then gave it to his girlfriend Dawn Sturgis, who then got Novichok poisoning and died. Which is the more bullshit story? The story that they went to Salisbury specifically to see the church steeple, which sounds like monumental bollocks, or the story that they just discarded a bottle that was found by this guy who gave it to his girlfriend as a perfume bottle. You see? So, Kay, what does he say anyway to that? It's very unlucky that they were in the same bedroom where the real assassins were, who dropped some Novichok there as well.
The point is, whatever they say, they could say they had lunch with aliens in Salisbury. There's very little the British government can do about it.
That is exactly right. You've in just the minute or so that we've been on air, you've raised exactly the question.
Brilliant.
That Russia Today in 25 minutes did not.
Yeah, but Kay Burley is far better than the Russia Today presenters. Kay Burley is a genius. Possibly the greatest reporter that ever lived. How Kay Burley doesn't have a Pulitzer Prize yet, I don't know. She's amazing. She got right to the heart of it.
Point out, namely that traces of Novichok have been found in the hotel room where these men stayed, quite apart from which the idea that they went to Salisbury, whose cathedral they know about, obviously through having briefly gleaned facts from Wikipedia, and the fact that they walked towards Sergei Skripal's house rather than the cathedral that they supposedly had come to see. All this preposterous, fabricated story.
Preposterous, fabricated story, says Oliver Kahn, the biggest cheerleader for the Iraq war that ever lived. This piss flap, which is what he is, was writing articles in 2006 defending the invasion of Iraq when already millions of Iraqis had been murdered. No weapons of mass destruction had been found. None. And real journalists like Robert Fisk were exposing the lies and the war crimes. But Murdoch's man Oliver Kahn in 2006, 7, 8 and 9 was still writing disgusting articles defending the sacking and the razing to the ground Iraq, a country which had never threatened the United Kingdom. And he's talking about bullshit now in 2018. Yeah, 16 minutes past the hour. This is the Richie Allen Show for Thursday, September 13th, 2018. You can't believe any of them. We're going to just gloss over Brexit. Not going to talk about it today because it'll come up next week. It might come up for a few minutes on Sunday View, and we're going to be talking about it for months. I'm going to leave it. And I'm also not going to talk about the most anti-democratic thing the European Union has done lately. And that is passed Article 13, the law that's going to destroy journalism, that's going to destroy independent journalism. Talked a lot about that with Hayden Hewitt, and I will get into it next week. It's been passed, it's on a shelf now where it will remain till January. I will talk about it, I'm not ignoring it, but I want to move on to something a little bit different that I came across on BBC Radio 5 today. Now, you'll know if you've listened to this programme from the get-go. And by the way, the programme is 4 years old this week. On Saturday, the 15th of September, this coming Saturday, it will be exactly 4 years old because it began on September 15th, 2014. It wouldn't exist without you. You should be happy about that. 4 years and well over 1,000 shows, including TV shows. And we've put an incredible array of brilliant men and women researchers on the air, and that's because of you. 4 years. Now, in that 4 years, I've often talked about how pharma invents illnesses. It creates fictional illnesses out of thin air all the time. Mad stuff, right? New, weird and wonderful psychological disorders invented by Big Pharma, because then they can say, oh, you have that, and we also have the cure. There is a new one. A new one. I heard about it today for the first time. A new disorder, and it's called depersonalization disorder. Depersonalization disorder. Listen to Rachel Burden, Radio 5 Live presenter. Listen to Rachel. This is gold. Depersonalization disorder.
Depersonalization. That is the experience of feeling unreal, detached, or without emotion. That's putting it very simply. More to it than that. The Holby City actor Rosie Marcel has revealed that she has the condition and had to take time off set to get therapy for it. And she's going to talk to us later on Breakfast about it. But first, a bit more detail on what it is and how common the condition is. Dr. Elaine Hunter is clinical lead of the Depersonalisation Disorder Service based at the Maudsley Hospital, the only specialist unit of its kind in the UK. Dr. Hunter, thanks very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Hunter. She heads up the Depersonalisation Disorder Service, the first of its kind. Right. I'm going to keep saying it. Depersonalisation disorder. What is it then?
So I suppose the symptom that's really unique to depersonalisation that any other mental health problem doesn't seem to have is this sense of unreality that the person has. And it's typically very difficult for someone to describe, but they'll often talk about things like just feeling like the outside world doesn't feel real. Sometimes they don't feel real themselves. It's almost as though they're in a kind of dreamlike state. And people sometimes say they can't tell the difference whether they're asleep or awake. It just feels exactly the same.
Yeah. Do you want to hear that again? Very good, this. Listen carefully to how she describes depersonalisation disorder.
So I suppose the symptom that's really unique to depersonalisation that any other mental health problem doesn't seem to have is this sense of unreality that the person has.
Unreality?
And it's typically very difficult for someone to describe, but they'll...
Difficult for them to describe?
They'll often talk about things like just feeling like the outside world doesn't feel real.
The outside world doesn't feel real.
Sometimes they don't feel real themselves.
They don't feel real themselves.
It's almost as though they're in a kind of dreamlike state.
A dreamlike state.
And people sometimes say they can't tell the difference whether they're asleep or awake. It just feels exactly the same.
Wow, now I nearly fell off the couch this morning when I heard that. If you believed that you were infinite consciousness and that this reality is illusory, maybe that the universe is holographic, you could have depersonalization disorder, right? She basically described it to a T. An understanding or a feeling that the world isn't real, that maybe you are not real in terms of that you are not what you appear to be, that it's a kind of a dreamlike state, and sometimes you don't know whether you are awake or whether you are asleep. Doesn't sound like anybody who thinks that is mentally unwell to me, right? Do a lot of people have it? Asks Rachel Burden. Do a lot of people have depersonalization disorder? Do they?
1 to 2% of the population may have it, Irene. That's
1 to 2.
A significant number.
It's yes, a very significant number and very surprising often to people when they get that statistic. I mean, there's very good quality research that was done both in the UK. It's also the same figures are shown in Europe.
Lovely. She goes on to say there's loads of research done in the UK and Europe, but Burden doesn't ask her research done by whom. Obviously, because she's another piss-poor presenter. So the UK population is 66.57 million at the moment. 2% of that, if you take the highest figure, she said 1 to 2%. 2% of which is 1.33 million with depersonalization disorder. Lots of customers to be identified then. We better set up a call centre. And the treatment, how will you treat somebody with depersonalization disorder?
We'll help them understand what's triggered it.
We'll help them understand what's triggered it.
We'll help them understand what's keeping it going.
And what's keeping it going, that's very important.
Giving them ways of coping.
We'll give them a few ways of coping with it.
And dealing with it. And that it combined with medication.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Medication.
There's no one particular medication that's for depersonalization.
No.
But sometimes a combination of drugs.
A combination of drugs, let's just get them doped up to the fucking gills. Because they think that the world outside is not real and that maybe they are not what they appear to be. Let's drug them up to the nines, as we say in Ireland. and the truth shall set you free. What a fascinating bit of radio today on Radio 5 Live. A man or woman who feels that all is not right with the world and reality and themselves, well, they're ill. We better get them in and start them on a medicine plan. This is the Richie Allen Show for Thursday, 13th of September 2018. I'm looking forward to meeting Posie Parker. She'll join us in a couple of minutes after a very short break. Keep the tweets coming in to @Richie Allen Show.
Have you lost access to important data from a computer hard drive, mobile phone, or other storage device? Maybe you have a broken hard drive containing years of information, or a smartphone that no longer works from which you'd like the pictures, movies, and chats recovered. If you would like to recover data from any type of digital device, including desktop and laptop computers, external hard drives, cameras, smartphones, NAS, and RAID servers, then contact Data Clinic today at dataclinic.co.uk now.
Introducing the H2O app, a powerful water structuring application that programs vibrational energies into water through the use of different sound frequencies. Once programmed, the use of water for drinking, cooking, bathing. Give it to your friends and colleagues or spread it around the garden. The list goes on. It's not just water that the app can be used for either. It's great for programming crystals too. The H2O app is free to download and is available on both Android and Apple platforms. For further information, go to h2oapp.online.
There's a place high in the mountains of Spain, a sanctuary where souls gather from all around the globe to learn about themselves and experience powerful changes in the way we see our world. They become awakened to their gifts and their power to heal others. Become part of this ever-growing worldwide family of unique, pure energy healing practitioners. Discover how amazing you truly are. Go to www.markbayerski.com. It could just change your life forever. Forever.
Welcome back to the most listened to independent radio show in Europe. It's your Richie Allen Show.
Right, unsurprisingly, quite a lot of tweets, or quite a few tweets on that last bit of the monologue there. Jason tweets, pretty ironic that they chose an actress to portray the issue, the Hollyoaks actress. I think, was it Hollyoaks or was it Holby City? I think it was Holby City. A Holby City actress believes that she has this disorder and did speak to the BBC later on. Faisal tweets, so anybody who is freaked out by the strange state of the world these days has a mental disorder now. Yes. David Stanford says, no emotion, best throw some at the world leaders then. Let me scroll on down there. A lot of people interested in that. Lots of comments as well on the Skripal story and on the, say it for me, on the interview conducted by RT with the two alleged assassins. We say alleged assassins, of course. Massive amount of tweets on that. To follow what other people are telling me, go to twitter.com where it says search Twitter, put Richie Allen Show, all one word, press enter and off you go. Now Natasha in Liverpool says, I swear to God, Richie, I was messaging my mother to say the same thing. Awakening, call it whatever, like unplugging from the Matrix, but I swear I thought the exact same thing and I have personally experienced such symptoms. Very interesting Radio 5 Live segment earlier today. Just caught it by pure luck. Let's welcome our first guest then. And a number of you got in touch with me on social media to ask me to invite her on the programme. I'm glad I did. This is from her own website. Of course, I will tweet links to her website. I think she's banned from Twitter. We'll find out in a minute if she is and why. She says that she's been fighting the trans cult since 2015 and has been vilified by men and women alike. She was even interviewed under caution by the police for saying that she feels it's wrong to castrate a child. She says she's primarily concerned with the autonomy of girls and women, and she considers the sex of someone to be immutable. No man or boy can ever really know what it is like to be female. Female isn't a state of mind, she says. She now finds herself in the middle of a huge fight, in the fight to free speech, having clawed herself out of the left. And I'm delighted to welcome to the programme the activist, the blogger, Posie Parker. And I will tweet a link as well to her YouTube channel where she's put some really interesting videos on there talking about these issues. Posie Parker. Posie, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hello, yes, I'm good, thank you.
Thanks for joining me. You are banned from Twitter. Why are you banned from Twitter?
I think Twitter has become a place where double speak and wrong think is part of the course. So I'm banned for saying women don't have penises.
Is that it? Was it that specific thing, saying that you can't be a woman because you have a penis?
I don't know. Twitter don't tell people what their
No, they
reason
don't,
is
do
or
they?
rationale.
No, they don't. But when you put a tweet out and it gets a bit of traction and then you find yourself deleted from Twitter, it's safe to assume that maybe that was it. And you say on your website that this goes back as far as 2015. What happened then that interested you in this particular issue? What was going on at that time that got your attention, Posie?
Well, I joined after the May election when the Tories won outright. I joined a big lefty forum of women, and I was really unaware of this new idea that trans women were women. I just thought we all assumed that trans women were transsexuals, and were living in a really sort of a quite a difficult life and trying to come to terms with their dysphoria. So when I went on this big site, and then some absolute autogynephiliac males, some very, very fetishy males came on. The way they came on was by everybody was talking about politics, and then these males would come on looking incredibly masculine, but with makeup and wigs and coquettish poses, and they would just put loads and loads of profile pictures in soft focus. And so it was really peculiar. And then I would watch women fawn and say, "Oh, you look really beautiful. I wish I could do my makeup like you," in a way that people don't do that to other women really in those sort of forums. And I guess I got my peak trans moment when a chap came on and he started talking about quite nasty violence to women in a joke. And I said to him, "Are you sure you identify as a woman?" And the vitriol that shot at me at that point was phenomenal. I had no idea that this was, the whole mob turned against me and said that I was disgusting and a TERF and all these new things that I hadn't really heard of. So that really, that piqued my interest, and I thought, well, something's going very, very, very wrong here.
The guy joked about violence against women, presumably women who maybe didn't agree with his identity. And in your fairly benign response to that, which is, I think, a pretty fair response, they all kind of lump in. And so you have, I suppose, progressive mentalities, the virtue. We've come to call these people virtue signalers, people who can't wait for the opportunity to say, "I'm lovely. I really do respect everybody, and I really love everybody. You can be a woman," and all the rest of it. So that kind of piqued your interest. Then you're obviously a very smart woman. I've watched your videos on YouTube. You're very eloquent. You're very well spoken. You're articulate. You're educated. So you're looking then, and you're saying to yourself, Posie, what the bloody hell is going on here? Right? At that stage, right? Yeah. Okay. So where did that take you then?
Well, then that took me into sort of finding like-minded people. So I got kicked out of this group. I've been kicked out of many groups. It's becoming a hobby of mine. I got kicked out of this group and sort of picked up a couple of other people along the way. And it was very strange, because these conversations of, well, I don't think trans women and women either, had to take place in sort of whispers behind curtains and in private messages. And then I came into a very large group. Well, it started off quite small and grew, which shall remain nameless and become a secret to this day, of about 400 women who all began organising. So that was a discussion group, and what branched off from there was many, many organisations, that many of which that you probably see a little more mainstream.
Yeah. Tell me this, Posie, what do you think around that time? What changed socially that women or men who, in a benign way, because look, there are some haters, there are spiteful people out there who can't have a conversation with people, and they will say nasty things and hurtful things to trans gender people. They will, of course. I like to think they're in the minority. Why do you think?
They're predominantly homophobic men. That's the people that are a danger to trans women.
Yeah. And I would like to think that's a minority. So other people then, like you, like myself, I mean, I've made no secret of it. I don't believe that a trans woman is a woman. I don't believe it, and I'll never believe it. I don't go looking for, trans women to go, hey, by the way, I don't think you're a real woman. I don't do that. I don't think you do that either. Live and let live, let people do what they want. But what happens socially that moderate people who like a discussion, felt that they had to speak, as you described it, in whispers behind curtains for fear of some sort of retaliation? What changed that this became or has become the norm?
Well, I think a number of things. So it's a bit of a perfect storm. So you have people gathering in groups, trying to form alliances because the society is quite fractured and people are not particularly content and aren't really masters of their own destiny in many cases in this country. So they form online groups. Now, being part of a group means that you have to completely conform at the moment to that group. So that's one thing that happened, and that happened online, and that happened with many young people who were much more impressionable. At the same time, behind the scenes, unbeknownst to all of us, there have been meetings in sort of government, in the judiciary, in our health service, in education, and all at the top level of these bodies, predominantly males, so trans women, so predominantly males, not transsexuals either. These are men who haven't had any surgery. So those men have been whispering and convincing governments that the central focus of diversity and inclusion is trans women. And that is the detriment of women. And actually, I've read so many things now, including Hansard and everywhere, where nobody even mentions women. When people are talking about where should we put a transgender prisoner, where should we put a trans woman prisoner, so a man who's committed rape, where should we put them? Nobody's saying, well, hang on a minute, can we think about the women? When we're talking about, so in the police, for example, if I was arrested today by a trans woman with a penis, and I'm going to start just using the word man. I've promised myself that I'm not going to use the word trans woman because it's a nonsense. So when a man arrests me who happens to call himself a woman and still has a penis, he is allowed to intimately search me. And the reason he's allowed to do that is because a policeman who was a trans woman took the police to court for being prejudiced against him in his role and not treating him fully as a woman.
You see, that was my next question there, because I was going to jump all over you there and say, tell me, prove that to me, prove that a policeman who identifies as a woman can indeed perform an intimate body search of a woman. I was going to say, prove it to me, because I'm like, Christ, that can't be happening, but you're telling me it can happen.
That is the absolute law. Now, I've asked police, so I spoke to the Police and Crimes Commissioner of Avon and Somerset Police. I spoke to her top sort of equalities and diversity woman, whatever officer it was, and I asked that direct question. Now, her answer was that you can request, any prisoner, any person arrested or whatever can request a different officer. And I put it to her, how many very, very vulnerable women that you would arrest would think to exercise her rights in those ways, and how difficult that actually would be in practice? And she had no answer.
No answer.
No. And then schools. So I've talked to a couple of safeguarding officers in schools, and I'm so shocked at this. I really did nearly use a huge amount of profanities. So I've asked this question. If a trans child, so a male, so a boy, decides he's a girl and comes into school and wants to use the girls' changing rooms, as a safeguarding officer, your duty of care is clearly to those girls as well as everybody else. So where would that child who says they're trans, where would they change? And he said, well, it depends what stage of a transition they're at. And I said, well, as a child, they wouldn't be. And he said, oh, and it depends what their legal status is. And I said, and again, as a child, they wouldn't have one beyond being whatever sex they were born. And he said, oh, I'd take legal advice, but that transgender child would be able to go wherever they felt comfortable. And I said, okay, and what about the girls? You know, girls going through puberty, girls that don't really want to share with boys. And he said, well, they could be provided a different changing area if they felt uncomfortable.
Madness. So you might move 15, 20 girls to another area. because
although the truth is, girls are not going to speak up. If most of the girls in that situation go along with it because they're virtue signalling, and girls from day one are told to capitulate and do what's nice, then all those girls, whether they're comfortable or not, will probably not speak up.
And the Daily Mail, whatever anybody thinks about it, people like it. It's Marmite. You loathe it or you love it. Has done a lot of work on it. And of course, recently, now I do want to speak with, let me just remind you who's speaking with us. Posie Parker is live on the line from her home. ThePosieParker.com, Posie Parker.com, ThePosieParker.com is the website. Get on there. Check her out on YouTube as well. There is no other, there's an actress called Posie Parker, but if you put Posie Parker into YouTube, you'll find her very quickly. You can't miss her. Now, I do want to talk in a minute about you getting your collar felt, as it were, Posie, by the old bill, which is, well, it's beyond Orwellian. And I want to talk about that in a minute. But the Mail have done some good work, and recently they've reported that a man identifying as a woman who's been in a women's prison has sexually assaulted women. And this is not conspiracy theory, it's not conjecture. The person has been caught banged to rights. So this is not hysterical stuff that, you know, feminists or women are complaining about. This is actually happening. I mean, I can't believe my eyes when I'm reading that this man who claims to be a woman, who identifies as a woman, is put in prison and manages to seriously sexually assault 4 women. What's going on? Where's the logic in that? That's lunacy beyond the comprehension of me. Help me out with that. How's it happening?
Well, I think that's the logical conclusion of, if you decide that you're going to forgo safeguarding and your duty of care to women to centre men, then that's where we end up, isn't it? That's the time old story. Conclusion. That's how it's always happened.
You've been spoken to by the police, which you talk about on line on the YouTube videos and on your website. Some of our listeners won't know anything about this. I can't believe it. You know that you have an opinion on something and you're challenged. I mean, you can be challenged by anybody about it, but for the police to say you have to be careful or, you know, try to give you a caution. Tell us what happened. When did the police contact you to talk to you about this?
So way back in February, I got a text from a police officer, which I thought was quite bizarre, and I am a beacon of hate for many trans activists, so I just assumed it was something dodgy. And then he called me, and he was cheeky, chappy, chirpy, lovely, from Yorkshire. And he told me that Susie Green, the children's champion of transitioning children, Susie Green, CEO of Mermaids, had made a serious complaint about me. And I was a test case, and there were multiple charges they could have brought against me. And, you know, and it's Susie Green, and she's clearly got the ear of the police. So then I consult a solicitor, and I actually see a chap called Bill. I want to call him Bill Bailey. I always try and call him Bill Roach, which is the guy that plays Ken Barlow, I think. So this really lovely, very, very, very posh, very tall man who's an absolute delight. And he gets hold of the police and asks for disclosure. Now, that changes the very friendly, cheeky, chappy nature of my police officer the next time he calls. And he's not very nice. And at the end of the call, I said, "Oh, you've mentioned wanted. What does that mean?" And he said, "Well, if you're driving a bit too fast and we pull you over, you'll be arrested." And now this is if I don't turn up for this interview, that's invitation. You know, I'm invited to an interview. And if you try and leave the country, you'll be arrested. And if we don't manage to find you, then we'll come to your house, put you in handcuffs in front of your family, and then you'll sit in the local police station in the cell.
The police have said this, Posie. The police have said this. This is on the record.
There's no record. This is him telling me on the phone.
It's him telling you on the phone.
I have to wait a long time in police cells because it takes a long time. He might be busy, and it would take a long time to come down from West Yorkshire. Because
somebody, Susie Green from this group, or somebody associated with Mermaids, has alleged that what you have said or what you are saying is hateful and harmful to trans folk. Therefore, that has to be dealt with. You do realise this week, don't you? The South Yorkshire Police have asked people to report what they call non-crime crime. Yeah, I studied English at 3rd level. It doesn't make me intelligent. In fact, it probably reduced what little intelligence I probably had. But non-crime crime, and that means anything that people think is hateful or hurtful, you should call up South Yorkshire Police. In theory, a guest on this programme, such as yourself, could say something like, I do not believe that a trans woman exists. I don't believe in the existence of such people, and I don't believe that we should be bending over backwards to legislate for them. Somebody could say, the way things are going, that totally upset me, that triggered me. I was at home listening to the Richie Allen Show, and I heard this Posie Parker. I went into meltdown. Please do something about it, and that's where we're going, right?
Absolutely. They're not the first either. They're not the first. West Yorkshire did that a long time ago. They say that even if it isn't a crime, I think they must have missed that lesson at school.
Yeah.
Sticks and stones may break my bones. But remembering, these are the police forces where they had the most appalling raping,
dreadful, yeah.
Gang raping of vulnerable girls who they ignored. I mean, according to them, that was a non-crime. So. And we've got people in this country at the moment being faced with private prosecutions from trans activists. Venice Allen, Linda Bellos, they're both being, and there's a couple of other people whose names I don't know, they're both being privately prosecuted because the CPS said they wouldn't prosecute these people. And so a trans activist called Juliana London is trying to
taking a civil case. Could do you have? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Do you have any more details about what it is being alleged about the people you mentioned?
Absolutely. So a year to this day, a chap called Tanis Wolf wrote all over Facebook that he wanted to F up some TERFs and wanted to punch a TERF, and he went to Speaker's Corner, and that's exactly what he did. He punched a 61-year-old woman to the floor, and that lady's name was Maria McLachlan, and in her trial, because she didn't use the pronoun she got no compensation, because that poor victim, the man who punched her, she didn't capitulate, and I think she forgot the pronouns a couple of times, so she didn't get compensation. Now, just after her being punched to the floor, a black, lesbian, Jewish feminist who brought Black History Month to this country, called Linda Bellos, said at a meeting in York that if they, and I'm not going to get this accurate, so I don't know the quote precisely, but words to the effect of, if they come near me, I've done boxing, I'll defend myself, or I'll punch back, or something along those lines.
Fair enough.
She's a 67-year-old woman, right?
Yeah.
Now, Venice Allen was the person who put on that talk, and Venice live streamed it. So the private prosecution is on the basis that Linda Bellos said something deeply offensive and threatening, and for Venice, it's because she broadcast it.
Wow. Right, I got a couple of interesting questions. Posie Parker is on the line. ThePosieParker.com. That's Posie, not Posey, like the actress. This is very serious stuff. There are so many issues here. The safety issues, of course, paramount for women and girls, paramount. And I'm not trying to virtue signal or try to curry favour here with anybody, but it's true. You can't ignore that. But also the right to have an opinion and to say what you think. Here's a question for you, Posie. Growing up in radio, and my commercial radio days were spent largely in the Republic of Ireland. And when you're in radio and around entertainment circles, you don't meet so many lesbian women, but you meet plenty of gay men, and you meet one or two transgender folks. And what I can't get my head around here is, and I'm not trying to be the devil's advocate, I really believe this. I remember meeting trans men and women, inoffensive people, went about their business doing their thing. And I can't imagine that many men who identify as women or women who identify as men, I can't imagine too many of them want any part of this. I suppose what I'm trying to say is, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, see, this is where I get conspiratorial, this might be coming from somewhere a bit more sinister. You said earlier on, I want to quote something you said earlier on, which really piqued my interest. You said that it's kind of, the trans issue is kind of like, it's being used as a test case or a cause célèbre, maybe, which will eventually encompass lots of other, identity groups, maybe. And I'm wondering how many trans men and women know about this madness that's going on, and how many of them would support it? What do you think?
I think two things. Number one, I think those that have tried to just live their lives in peace, that's absolutely fine by me. I don't really care how anybody does anything, as long as it doesn't infringe on my rights and my way of living. But the trouble is that some of those trans people that have fought for the right, so the GRA that's gone through, they've actually paved the way for what is happening now. However, my personal tin hat thing is that there's a number of deeply sinister people that would benefit greatly by a further erosion of our safeguarding and our common sense boundaries on sex. And those people, so if we look at someone like Amy Chandler, who was at the Green Party, his father is now serving 22 years in a prison for torturing a little girl, a 10-year-old girl, raping her repeatedly, tying her to a beam, putting pegs on her and electrocuting her. I mean, it's so sinister, it doesn't even sound real. It's so repulsive and disgusting. Now, Amy Chandler knew that his father was arrested in 2015 for this. And the Green Party still allowed him and his father to advise the Girl Guides and write sort of guidance and advice for different bodies representing the Green Party on getting trans women and children that identify as trans into women and girl spaces. Now that is absolutely abhorrent.
She's just been suspended, hasn't she, by the Green Party, if memory serves me, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I think he has now, but we have to accept that that what happened for those 3 years of that man that had been arrested for the most heinous of despicable, disgusting crimes.
It doesn't get worse. Our father, as you quite rightly said, was jailed for over 20 years for holding a 10-year-old, basically imprisoning a 10-year-old child and electrocuting the child, and Jesus Christ almighty.
Whilst he dressed as a little girl in nappies.
Yeah. Now, that must be a terrible thing for Amy Chandler to have to live with. I have to say that now. In her stroke his defence, right, yeah.
Absolutely, of course it is.
Yeah.
Doesn't really excuse the fact that Amy Chandler runs a massive thing called Turf Blocker, which silences about 50,000. So any women that disagree with trans women or women to the very extreme of that mantra, not just that they deserve to live a peaceful life and all these things, but that they can go, they can have unfettered access to everywhere that women are, and it doesn't matter what their bodies are like. It's not for transsexuals, it's for anyone. So Amy Chandler, under the knowledge of the Green Party, was routinely silencing women, and he will definitely be part of the reason that I'm banned from Twitter, because once you have a number of people blocking you, which they do en masse if they sign up to Amy Chandler's Turf Blocker, once they do that, you become sort of lesser. So I would be shadow banned, so people couldn't read half my tweets, or I would come with a sensitivity warning even when I was sharing a picture of a police car. So that's Amy Chandler absolutely contributes to the silencing of women on an industrial scale, and Caroline Lucas knew about this and still had him fighting for the deputy leadership of the party. So there's something really dirty about what's going on around this movement, and it's going unchecked.
Sorry. No, sorry, Posie. Listen, I'm just going back on what you said there. For our listeners who might be asking me or expecting me to challenge you about the comments you made about Challoner and her stroke his father. Excuse me. Posie's absolutely right there. And as for running the group, the anti-turf groups and the involvement, again, Posie is right there. There isn't anything there for me to challenge. There will be people listening to this who will say, this is funny, isn't it? It's like that Fox News thing. Some people say, when really I should say it's me saying it. Why would you just not say she? You're adamant you're not saying she, right?
I'm absolutely not going to say she.
Yeah.
Pronouns are a really important part of language. There's loads of tiny little bits of language that we use that are very shortcut. They convey so much more meaning than just the word. It's not just the word she. Once you capitulate to she, you then capitulate to woman. You then forgo the natural boundaries that we have as a species, which divide on sex. So I think once you let it, it's like, give them an inch, they'll take a mile. But it's for me personally, I don't see trans women as women under any circumstances. I don't. Even the ones that claim to pass. I'm 5'1". I've got tiny little hands and feet. It just doesn't happen for me, and I'm not about to pretend or lie or do any of those things to placate, because I don't feel like placating, and I think if it's not supposed to be a big deal for me to say the word she, then it isn't such a big deal for them to hear the word he.
Well, when I say I respect that, again, I'm not kissing your behind and trying to be a virtuous thing. I do respect it. I suppose, way of looking at it is, we touched earlier on people living the way they want to live, but also respecting other people and not trying to force it on them. And when somebody behaves like that, and if a man who identifies as a woman says, Richie, would you mind calling me, I don't know, Rachel or Martina? I will. And again, it's not because I'm weak, and it's not because I'm a hypocrite, even though I don't believe that he's a woman. But I think, sure, live and let live. But I suppose I would draw the line, and maybe I'm contradicting myself now, where if I felt that they were radical. I had an interesting experience with a person. I have to say person, I don't know if he or she was born male or female, but Christy Elan Kane, who identifies as non-binary. And I invited Christy on the programme and said, look, I'll be honest with you, I'll level with you. I don't buy any of it. And I don't believe you should be getting the passports changed and all this sort of stuff. I don't buy it, but I'll interview you anyway. And Christy tentatively agreed to come on the programme, but then melted down when he or she had read some articles that I'd done before and a monologue that I did where I said nothing hurtful or shameful, but where I just put my opinions out there, nailed my colours to the mast, and then Christy went bananas and demanded that videos be deleted from YouTube and everything, which I didn't. Now that sort of person, maybe it's because I'm a bit of a child, Posie, maybe I'm a bit of a childish bloke for 43. Christy, now I would say, well, you can feck off now. If I find out you have a vagina, I'm calling you she. And if I find out you have a penis, I'm calling you he. But where's the person, I met a trans woman through Fab Radio in Manchester, lovely person, and you want me to call you Mandy? Yeah, I will, yeah, no problem. That's just me. But you disagree with me. You think I should take a more principled stand on it?
Well, we rarely use she or he when we're in front of somebody anyway. So, of course, if somebody said my name's Rachel, I can't say, well, actually, Rachel's a girl, Rachel's a female name. And a name's a name. You call yourself what you like, and I will go along with it. But it's just the pronoun thing. I'm just not going to submit to that at all.
Me neither. I'm not having this. I'm not going to be told by anybody, these are my pronouns. And I'm not, again, if I learned anything when I studied English, it is, I'm not going to call someone they. It's ridiculous. It's beyond stupid, right? Excuse me, there is one of you over there. I can see one person. You are not they. So it's mad. Are you worried about this? Without mentioning any names, just because they're not here to defend themselves, or he's, after saying don't say they, he's not here to defend himself. Nasty stuff is going on. People are saying to you through social media, we know where your children go to school. That's not nice, that's happening, right?
Yeah, I've been on the phone to the police and safeguarding in both my children's schools today. Sorry, my 3 children. I've got 4, but one's not at those schools. But this particular person, along with others, have put pictures of my kids online. So that's already out there. Then they've put
pictures of the children online.
Yeah, they've taken them from my face, from somewhere. One of them was a review from where I went go-karting with the kids, and they've taken a picture and they put that online. And they discussed that there was a discussion that they could see a video of my children somewhere. And then they've recently just named what schools my kids go to. And it's all to intimidate me. And I know this person's name. And he calls him, his name is there. I'm pretty sure I'm not legally worried. His name's Mac Harrison, and he lives in Bristol. And he's put my kids' schools online. And
you can later on send me proof of that, can you? So I know that.
You can go and have a look on his Twitter right now. It's there. He's bold as brass. He thinks he's untouchable.
What's the guy's name again?
Mac Harrison. So he goes by the Only Sprout. He is one of the most hateful, toxic males I've ever encountered.
And that's M-A-C-K.
No, M-A-C.
Oh, excuse me, Mac, and then Harrison, H-A-R-R-I-S-O-N, is it?
Yeah. He goes by the name @TheOnlySprout. He's disgusting.
Because if I don't find that tweet, I'm going to hammer you. You know that. That tweet
You're
better be
more
there.
than welcome. I have a screenshot of it right here on my phone, just in case he deletes it.
Yeah, because people do tend to delete things. And Matt Harrison...
He's bold as brass. He thinks he can get away with everything. He's doxed women. He gets he's released a 70-page or 70 screenshot zip file with somebody had infiltrated one of the feminist groups.
What's his Twitter handle again? Sorry to interrupt you there, Posie. What's the Twitter handle?
That's right. @TheOnlySprout.
The Only Sprout.
Yeah, Sprout is in Brussels sprouts.
He's in Brussels.
He used to call himself Kilgore Sprout.
Oh, I've got him now, yeah. I'm just looking at tweets and replies, yeah. He's another hero. He's not got a picture of himself on there. When did he tweet this? Yesterday, was it?
I think it was. I saw it first thing this morning.
Right.
But,
yeah, I'll find it anyway.
Go on, sorry.
Yeah, I'll find it anyway. Yeah, if it's there, I'll find it. But you've got a screen grab of it.
I've got a screen grab of it, yes.
And he's tweeted pictures of your children.
In a previous guise, he's tweeted pictures of my children. So has somebody called Joss Pryor tweeted pictures of my children. He deleted them because I complained to Twitter. But these men are dangerous. They're not nice. They dox women. They contact people's work. These trans activists do that. It's you sort of feel like you're going around the twist and that you're being really paranoid. But men do awful things to women, and it's not and what that man is doing by saying I know where your children live. It's not a direct I'm going to come and find you. It's I know this. Now, he knew my kids' school. There are about 20 schools in the local vicinity of which my children could go to any of them. And he knew the 2 that they went to. Now, I think that is really damn sinister. And he's a nasty piece of work.
Yeah, people tweeting people's children's pictures and letting their parents know they know where their kids are. Yeah, it is. It's beyond creepy. I'll give you that. You will do us a favour in a few minutes when we finish for today, because I do want to get you back in the future talking about paedophilia and other things that we were talking about today.
Yeah.
Do us a favour and do send us that screen grab. Just send it over to Skype, will you, so I can have it. Just so that, because I do have a solicitor and he'll be absolutely cacking himself now that we've mentioned this guy. But I'm looking at some of his tweets there. They are interesting to say the least.
He's
there.
odious.
Yeah, I might drop him a line, invite him on the programme, see what he has to say for himself. So
that would be marvellous.
Yeah, I will. No, I will do. Of course, I will. Yeah. Where for you then, Posie? Where do you take this particular issue? I mean, you put the videos up on YouTube. They're very interesting. They're very well produced. Where are you going to take it? And I suppose as part of that, I would feel you've got a civil rights complaint against your local police. No, there must be something where you can say, well, you can't come and ask me and invite me to interviews based on something that I've said or some opinion. So where do you go from here with this issue? And what about that? Maybe looking into, well, your civil rights. Go ahead.
I think at the moment, I am a free speech. I would call myself a free speech advocate, and that means all speech, not threatening or inciting violence or anything, but all sort of speech within normal realms. So I will be doing a freedom of information request to find out what is going on. I mean, I can't discuss too much what else is going on with the police, and a variety of things that are very troubling with myself and the police. But I mean, I don't know where to go with that. At the moment, I'm focused on the GRA and ensuring that as many people as possible fill out the consultation. I'm coming to Manchester with some incredible women on the 28th of September. So we're on Friday, the 28th of September. We can't give out the location because they get harassed and hounded, and women get literally attacked by masked people. So I'm bringing Jean Hatchett, Anne Rislow, Julia Long and Hannah Clark of Man Friday. So we're going to come and give a talk in Manchester, and I'm just about to put the event up for people to buy some tickets. But I don't know. I'm doing a campaign called Standing for Women, where we are getting out there that woman means adult human female, and trying to sort of stop that in law, stop any change in law, because once you say a woman in law is no longer just an adult human female, then women have no rights whatsoever.
This is hugely important, and I'll be covering this ongoing. I've had people on in the past talking about it. I've spoken to one or two trans people. I've had some very interesting people on the programme actually talking about gender dysphoria, and I've had parents on talking about coming to terms with their child, telling them they feel that, you know, they're not in the right body, and it's huge. It's massive issues at stake here. Free speech, you know, the right to freedom of speech, not just freedom of speech, but freedom of thought, the right to express yourself without being subjected to, you know, people accusing you of hate crime and trying to get you fired from your job, and, you know, threatening you and talking about your children and all the rest of it. Folks, follow Posie at our website. It's theposieparker.com, POSIEPARKER.com, and if you put Posie Parker into the YouTube search, you'll find her very quickly, and you'll see that her videos are very thought-provoking, very well made, and you'll be able to join in there by, you know, adding your own comments and your own thoughts as well. Thanks for doing that today. Massively important, and I hope you'll come back on real soon, Posie.
I will. Thank you very much for having me.
No, it's great to have you. Thanks for that. Posie Parker, live on the line from her home today. Fascinating stuff. Very important, this issue, I believe, because it has implications, as she said herself earlier on, for other issues. And if you juxtapose what Posie was saying with what Dr. Stuart Waiton from Abertay University in Dundee has been saying to us on this programme recently about the creation of vulnerable groups and, you know, the elevation of hate speech into the public discourse, and police forces asking people to contact them if they feel like they've been offended or if they feel somebody has said something hateful to them. These are scary times, folks. They are. I'm not fear-mongering here. These are scary times. Right, 5 minutes past the hour. I'm going to take a very quick break, and I'm going to read some comments then. And in a few minutes' time, we will be joined live from Missouri by Jill Henderson. I can't wait to speak with Jill again. Had a brief conversation with her on the programme back in June, I think it was. Right, back in 90 seconds, in a jiffy.
There's a place high in the mountains of Spain, a sanctuary where souls gather from all around the globe to learn about themselves and experience powerful changes in the way we see our world. They become awakened to their gifts and their power to heal others. Become part of this ever-growing worldwide family of unique, pure energy healing practitioners. Discover how amazing you truly are. Go to www.markbayerski.com. It could just change your life forever.
Have you lost access to important data from a computer hard drive, mobile phone, or other storage device? Maybe you have a broken hard drive containing years of information, or a smartphone that no longer works from which you'd like the pictures, movies, and chats recovered. If you would like to recover data from any type of digital device, including desktop and laptop computers, external hard drives, cameras, smartphones, NAS, and RAID servers, then contact Data Clinic today at dataclinic.co.uk now.
Introducing the H2O app, a powerful water structuring application that programs vibrational energies into water through the use of different sound frequencies. Once programmed, the use of water for drinking, cooking, bathing. Give it to your friends and colleagues or spread it around the garden. The list goes on. It's not just water that the app can be used for either. It's great for programming crystals too. The H2O app is free to download and is available on both Android and Apple platforms. For further information, go to h2oapp.online.
Welcome back to the most listened to independent radio show in Europe. It's your Richie Allen Show.
Welcome back. 7 minutes past the hour. It's Thursday's programme, September 13th, 2018. Good to be back with you. A bit sore, a bit stiff. Somebody said to me yesterday, you won't feel sore until tomorrow. I felt a bit sore yesterday, but when I woke up this morning, I could barely move. I've got a real sore neck, my shoulder, where the shoulder meets the neck on the right hand side and the back of the neck. It feels like I've banged it against something. It's pretty sore. You don't notice that when you're in a crash. But then I don't know anything about crashes. Yesterday's was the first one I was in. If you're just tuning in, had a pretty severe smash yesterday. Smashed into by another car, which was in the wrong. It joined a main road which I was driving down from a side road. God help the woman involved. Traffic was very heavy at the time. Darted through the traffic to get a gap. Didn't see me and went straight into the side of me. And so there you are. But I suppose it could have been a lot worse. She's okay, and I will live, even if I am a little bit on the sore side. Right, we're going to move on in a minute. We're going to hear from Jill Henderson. Now, Jill is an author and is a journalist. And Jill, there's no point in me not telling you, Jill is married to Dean Henderson, who's been on the programme many times before. But I don't want to mention Dean, because Jill is here on her own merit. She's an outstanding writer and journalist. There's a lot to say. And we're going to talk about her. She's running a series of articles on hendersonlefthook.wordpress.com about food and about the importance of our food. And she's extracting from the brand new book that she's co-written with Dean. The book is called Agenda 21, Illuminati Agenda 21. And she's talked about even those who are awake to and know the dangers of genetically modified food. They better be aware that there's a very good chance, better than average chance, that you are ingesting genetically modified ingredients, whether you know it or not, because of contamination. And I want to get into that with her, because we do have a sizable audience in the United States, not to brag, but we do. And while allegedly genetically modified crops are not grown in this country and are not grown in Europe, the fact is there are people who believe that cross-contamination even in Europe is a possibility. I did mention on the show about 2 years ago, we ordered a pizza from a well-known pizza chain, the future Mrs. Allen and I. And as we were choosing online the crusts that we wanted, there were crusts. You could have a stuffed crust, and you could have an old style crust, and you could have this type of a crust. And there was one crust available, and it was a very thin crust. And lo and behold, it said on the website of this company that is delivering pizzas in Manchester, it said if you order this very thin crust, it does indeed contain genetically modified ingredients. Wow, I thought. What happened to you can't get GMO ingredients in your food in the UK? I thought at the time, and I reported this at the time. Right, so I want to talk to Jill about that. Keep the tweets coming in. It's at Richie Allen Show on Twitter. That's at Richie Allen Show on Twitter. Hi to Martin in Spain. How you doing, Martin? Hope you're well. Hope you're in good form, mate. Nice to see you tweeting. Hi to JP in Manchester, to Sean McDonald, to Elaine Hughes. How you doing, Elaine? Who says, big thanks to Posie. We need strong, clear-thinking women like this cutting through the bullocks, says Elaine. You can say bollocks if you want, Elaine. I don't mind. I have no problem with that. Hi to Rich, by the way, who says, Richie, no wonder there's no police on the streets stopping acid attacks. They're all sitting in front of emails, tweets Rich. That's a very good point. And there were 3 policemen who attended the scene of my crash yesterday, and they had to hang around until one of the recovery trucks came, because apparently people are so evil these days that when there's a crash and the people exchange insurance details and they wait for recovery, apparently if the police don't hang around, it is a possibility that one party will make up allegations about the other party. This is how sick and how sinister people are. Policeman said to me yesterday, he said, if I leave here now, there's a chance that you, Mr. Allen, that you will confront the woman who you had a crash with, and you will say stuff to her, or there's a chance that she will confront you, and then somebody will ring the police and we'll have to come back. I said, well, I'm not going to say anything to her. It's all done and dusted now. He said, that's the way the world has gone. So they were standing around, we were having a chat. I told him I made a radio show, and we talked about what Cressida Dick had said only the day before about police underfunding and what it is doing to policing, and why it's the Wild West in some parts of the country. And the 3 young policemen, very personable lads, lovely lads, they said, It's a nightmare to be a policeman. There are just not enough of us. Paperwork is killing us. Community policing, getting to know people in the communities, knowing what's going on, which used to happen years ago, doesn't happen anymore. These, as I said, very personable, very nice young men told me it's madness. So it's a very good point Rich makes. The police don't need to be dealing with this shit. Oh, hi. Yeah, my name is Richie Allen. Yeah. Is that Chief Inspector? It is, yeah. Some guy called me a dirty Irish bastard the other day. Did he? Well, we'll take a statement from you, Mr. Allen. We'll give you a crime number. No! The policeman should say, grow up! You silly muppet, grow up. He called you a dirty Irish bastard, did he? Presumably just walked on. Just walk on. Ignore him. Don't be wasting our time. There's people throwing acid at people. And same for the trans issues. 13 minutes past the hour. Going to get our next guest on now in just a second. Lots of tweets on this. It's at Richie Allen Show. Again, to follow what people are telling me, it's Richie Allen Show, all one word on Twitter. Just press enter, Richie Allen Show, all one word. Press enter. You'll see what people are telling me about these issues. There are a lot of tweets today. Good stuff indeed. Paul Sweeney tweets, all the caterers and restaurants are using frying oil with GMO soya hull. Is that right, Paul? Can you prove that to me, my friend? Can you send me a link and that shows me that's going? I'm not doubting you, but I wasn't aware of that. Okay, shall we have some Who? We'll have some Who, and we'll get Jill Henderson on the programme. The first bit of music we've had today. This is Substitute on the Richie Allen Show. Right, Substitute from The Who on the Richie Allen Show, 17 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to the programme. At Richie Allen Show is the Twitter handle. You're really going to be interested in this. This is very important in light of the tweets I've been getting since I mentioned that Jill was coming on. It seems that many of you believe, not just Paul Sweeney, who tweeted me a while ago, that GMO ingredients are in our food here in the UK and we're not being told about it. Now, I did mention that pizza thing, and I'll maybe mention that again later on. This is important. Let's welcome to the show. She spoke with us for a few minutes back in June. She's an author and journalist, and she's written books like The Ozarks, A Journey of Seasons, The Garden Seed Saving Guide, and The Healing Power of Kitchen Herbs. She's also co-written recently the book Illuminati Agenda 21 with her husband Dean. Let's welcome to the programme the journalist and author even, Jill Henderson. Hey Jill, welcome back. How are you?
I'm great, Richie. How are you?
Delighted to have you on. Said back in June it'd be great to get you on, and I'm delighted you're on, and this is hugely important. You're running on the Left Hook website, hendersonlefthook.wordpress.com, a series of snippets from the book Illuminati Agenda 21, and you're talking about where our food comes from, and genetically modified crops, Jill, and this idea is that even if you are aware of the dangers of them, and you might, through reading books like yours and following people like you online, and you might think, well, I'm somewhere where I'm not getting them in my food, but you outline through, cross-pollination and other ways how pretty much you are getting them in your food and they are in your environment. We're not supposed to have them here in the UK or in Europe, but a lot of our listeners want me to put to you the question, are we being exposed to them in Europe, whether we know it or not? Because if we are, it's obviously deadly serious. Jill, over to you. What do you think?
Yeah, well, there are very few places really where GMOs are not. Perhaps in the UK and EU, they're not being grown there. Perhaps they're not even being manufactured there. I haven't studied up on the laws on that as of this point, but food that's being imported, unless you have laws regulating that, you're probably getting GMOs in your food. If you're importing food from America or, India or any number of other countries, anywhere in Latin America, there's a really good chance that there's genetically modified foods in there. And it's not just genetically modified foods, it's the glyphosate, or the trade name Roundup. It's an herbicide that's sprayed on the food. And it's not just sprayed on genetically modified crops, it's sprayed on conventional crops as well. And new research coming out is pointing out that the glyphosate itself is causing the majority of these issues. And of course, the GMO food as well, because it's that glyphosate is taken into those plants that it's used on. It actually becomes part of their protein structure. And that's a big part of the problem.
You weren't surprised at all, Jill, when Monsanto lost that case and they were told, yes, glyphosate Roundup does indeed cause cancer. It is a carcinogen. You weren't surprised by that. Presumably you were happy to hear it. What has that meant for the, throwing some light onto what Monsanto is? What has that case meant for it? Do you expect that to endure? Do you expect them to appeal it? How important was that decision?
I think it was massive. I mean, because, Monsanto is a powerful multinational corporation, powerful. And they're based right here in Missouri, where I'm at, but not right where I'm at. They're north of us in St. Louis. And so it's sort of a shameful thing for me to be from Missouri at that time. And of course, Bayer just bought them. So now they're taking on all of the liabilities that Monsanto's incurred. But it was a massive victory for advocates, for consumers, and even for farmers who don't really want to be in this GMO glyphosate game. But they have to, because everybody else is doing it, and you can't really grow anything else. If you're growing corn and you want to grow open pollinated or organic corn, you can't grow it in an area where they're growing GMO corn.
Why? What happens, Jill? Because a lot of our listeners won't know this, and they will be fascinated hearing this. This is fascinating. So a farmer, Mr. or Mrs. Smith, they're a farmer, and they want to do it the traditional way. They want to grow, they want to save seed, they want to grow non-GMO seeds. Why can't they do it today?
Well, you can do it, but it's difficult. You have to be away from any other major agricultural crop that's GMO, particularly corn, because corn, the pollen floats through the air, and depending on what's around it, it can travel for up to 5 miles and infect or pollinate corn that is not GMO, because inherently there's the same type of plant, but the GMOs have been modified to have this this really strange protein in it, and then that infects other plants. And once that trademark, that patented gene gets into an organic or a non-GMO corn crop, first of all, you're liable. If they come and they say, whoa, look, you got our patented gene, they're going to sue you and take you to the house. They're going to bankrupt you and run you out of business.
And they have, Jill, haven't they? They've done that to people. They've actually done that to farmers. Tell us about that. A couple of famous cases.
Yeah. They've been doing it for years. I mean, it started in 1996 when they, introduced glyphosate Roundup and GMO corn. That was their first crop. And of course, everybody knows it's a staple crop all over the world. And, some of the farmers that resisted, they were finding GMO corn on their land anyway, mixed in with their traditional corn crop. And what happened is, that maybe that a neighbor would spray glyphosate or some other kind of herbicide, and someone would notice that the corn didn't die. And if the corn didn't die, that means it was GMO. And then they would send in their henchmen and test your corn. And if they found any trace of their patented gene in your corn crop or your soy crop or whatever, they would literally sue the pants off of you. They were trying to make an example of farmers who resisted, who were trying to continue conventional farming. And so they take their farms away from them. They'd sue them for so much money, wrap them up in the court systems, cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars that they didn't have, and run them out of business, and then sell their farm to someone who would grow their crops.
And destroy them, and destroy their families and their livelihoods. Jill Henderson is our guest. This is vital. We've not come at this for a long time. And I'm getting lots of tweets here. Lots of them. I will get to the questions. I will ask Jill, how does this fit in with the Illuminati Agenda 1? Of course, I'll ask Jill that. We're talking about the gentleman who was awarded $289 million in damages. San Francisco court ordered Monsanto to pay that, saying that, yes, his cancer was linked to glyphosate. Jill, I won't assume knowledge that the audience will know this stuff. Look, I'm an ordinary bloke. I would assume, Jill, that with that judgment being out there, that the FDA would immediately suspend the sale of Roundup. Have they?
Yeah, well, you know what they say about assuming things. And in this political climate, where we have Monsanto lobbyists and, chair people and executives sitting in positions of power in the federal government and at the FDA and in governments all around the world, where they can, invoke their own laws and change laws so that they can have their products out there and nobody's going to question. The FDA does not actually test all these products, these herbicides, pesticides, unless, of course, there's a big issue. Now, California, now I'm going to give it to California, but California is a very progressive state. And they're the first to actually say that glyphosate was a probable carcinogen. And this case that was recently won in California is just an extension of that. And so California is basically telling the federal government, feck off, you bunch of, jackwads, and, we're going to go after this. But I don't think it's going to change anything. And there's two reasons for that. I think Bayer is going to get really tired of having to pay these kind of settlements, first of all. And glyphosate isn't working like it used to. I mean, as a matter of fact, we have all these super weeds now because of, 30 years of use of glyphosate in the field. Many plants have become resistant to it. And now they're mixing it with stuff like dicamba and 2,4-D, which is a component of Agent Orange. And they're having to mix these other chemicals with glyphosate to potentiate it, to make it stronger. And so I don't know. I think the whole thing's getting ready to change. But I would like to talk just a little bit about why glyphosate's so toxic. And,
absolutely, Jim. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I've been talking about GMOs for years because I'm a big proponent of seed saving. I've talked about how to save seeds. I give presentations and lectures, and of course, I'm always tearing up GMOs and why they're so dangerous. Because once they get out into the environment, there's no reeling them, getting them back. So you open Pandora's box, and it's hard to get all the evil back in it. But glyphosate is really, really toxic. And I heard Dr. Stephanie Seneff. She's a lead scientist researcher at MIT. And she had a great explanation of, she's been studying this, for many years now. And she was for 10 years studying autism when she finally kind of connected glyphosate with the incidence of autism, which is absolutely skyrocketing. So she explains it this way, and I think this is a really great analogy. Glyphosate is basically, well, first of all, it's the most widely used chemical ever in the history of the world. So it's everywhere. And the amounts that they're using are going up, up, and up. Now, glyphosate it has like a protein in it. It's substituting in the human body glycine. So it's displacing glycine, which is an essential amino acid. It's that our bodies need to synthesize protein. Okay. And when it gets into the body doesn't recognize it. It thinks it's glycine because it looks a lot like glycine. But like Dr. Seneff says, it's like having two little red sports cars, and they look exactly the same, except one of them's got the door hanging open and you can't close it. So when that little red sports car gets into your bloodstream, your body goes, well, okay, it looks like I'm protein. Looks like what I'm supposed to be doing. It takes it in, and then it can't break it down into the essential amino acids that the body needs to stay healthy. And so what happens are these proteins get into the body, and the body just has a complete autoimmune response, and inflammation sets in. It opens up the cell walls in the gut. And that's where you get leaky gut and celiac disease. So it has this synergistic effect, and the body is just trying to rid itself now of this foreign protein that it cannot break down. It can't break it down like it would a normal protein, like that you would get from normal food. And so it just bangs around in the body. The gut leaks it out and puts it into the blood, hoping that perhaps the white blood cells are going to take care of it. They'll tear it up and get rid of it. But the majority of that protein, that fake protein is what I call it in my article, winds up getting stuffed into little corners of your body because your body can't eliminate it. And so that sets up all kinds of chain reactions for immunoresponses. It's a major cause of obesity, diabetes, neurological disease, which includes Alzheimer's, ALS, Parkinson's, Crohn's disease. It impairs the blood flow. And so you get all kinds of vascular and cardiac diseases, causes liver disease, kidney disease, renal failure, diseases of the tubules in the body, adrenal exhaustion, hormonal imbalance. I mean, I could just go on. Learning disabilities, seizures, chronic fatigue, fertility, food allergies, and autism, and on and on and on. Because at the core of all of those things is inflammation. And it's uncontrolled immunoresponse inflammation the body just cannot manage on its own. There are ways to detox somewhat, but it's a terribly dangerous protein to have in your body. And it's the glyphosate that's in the GMOs and other food that it's sprayed on that's doing this to us.
Two very important things that you just brought up there, because people have been asking about the European Union and the UK, and I understand. I don't disbelieve my listeners. A lot of my listeners have tweeted. I've had a listener who's tweeted from the Republic of Ireland who said that a farmer, he knows his livestock is being fed with with food with GM ingredients in it. Another person has confirmed that. A lot of people are saying this. I've had an email, I've had a tweet about GM crops being grown in Spain. I know that to be true, but I didn't understand. I didn't understand that those crops were being sold and were being, processed into food for the European market. It looks like I'm completely blown away by this. Two important issues you're making there. Two important points you're making there. Number one, even if we're not getting food on our shelves that has GM ingredients in it, what we definitely are getting is we're getting glyphosate, because they're using Roundup here. They're using it in Ireland. They've been using it here for years. So
that's right.
So just in case people are saying, why is Richie not challenging Jill to prove that glyphosate has got all these things? It's because as well as speaking to Jill today, we've had doctors, what you would call establishment doctors, system doctors, on this program over the years who totally concur with what Jill has just said there. We've had Vandana Shiva on this program from India talking about BT cotton. What an amazing woman. Talking about the suicide of hundreds of thousands of farmers in that country, and what Monsanto and what glyphosate has done there as well. This is not conspiracy theory. It's absolutely true. And Jill, I hear from people all the time, I go running every day. I'm no super athlete or anything, but I run 3 miles, 5 kilometers, just over 5 kilometers a day. I run it fast, or I try to run it fast. And I'm not a big eater at all. And I've got that little gut chill that you just can't get rid of. When I meet other runners and they're fit, I mean, you look at my face, it's all sunken in. I'm thin, but I've got this little belly. And I meet other runners and they say, I can't get rid of this belly. I'm not drinking much alcohol. I'm not eating fatty foods. I'm not eating in the night times. Why can't I get rid of this belly? It's this protein, right?
Right. It is. And I just listened to 2 really intense lectures by Dr. Seneff, the woman I was telling you about earlier from MIT. And I've looked at many studies over the years, the Kane study, which, of course they went after those people, the ones that showed you see the pictures of with the rats with the big giant tumors sticking out of their necks. Okay. Well, they ran those poor guys right out of the profession. I mean, they just vilified them until, they couldn't stand it. But those studies were longer than they were actually based on Monsanto studies. Exactly. They used the very exact same protocols. I mean, to the T, except they used more animals and did it for a longer period of time, because apparently Monsanto's scientists knew that at a certain time frame, there would be no effects that were shown. And it was something like 9 weeks. But after that, that's when they saw infertility in the rats, these giant tumors showing up. They were showing infertility within a single generation. I mean, it was just horrific. And all they used the same exact feeding protocols, but they just extended the study out a little bit longer, and in time, so that they could see what happens in a longer period of time of exposure. And see, the thing about glyphosate is because these proteins are not able to be broken down or even used by the body, they bioaccumulate in your tissues. So that might be in your liver or your kidneys or your brain or any other part of your body. And the thing about animals that are fed GMO grains, like, soy and corn, and, there's quite a few, or any hay or anything that's been sprayed with glyphosate, anything that's been sprayed with glyphosate, those proteins are also in the animals themselves, inside the flesh and muscle and bone of those animals.
You can't get away from it, Jill.
What's that?
Basically, you're saying, and what you're saying I think is fair. I think it's a fair thing to say. It isn't scaremongering. It's just the truth. You're saying that it's impossible to escape this stuff. As long as it's because it is widely used across this country and across Europe.
It's pervasive. It is the most widely used chemical in the world ever.
And it's a carcinogen, and we know this.
And we know this, and we know not only that, but it's a neurodisruptor. It's a disruptor. It's an endocrine disruptor. It causes all kinds of autoimmune disorders. It actually, the only bacteria. It creates like antibiotic resistance because the bacteria is not, it doesn't kill it, right? So it just keeps getting stronger like those super weeds. And this is a big part of why we in animals are having a lot of antibiotic resistance. So, I mean, the number of things, including cancer, particularly non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is pretty much like, it goes hand in hand with glyphosate. It's amazing how many diseases come out of this. But I'll tell you what, if you just Google Dr. Stephanie Seneff, I think, and listen to a few of her talks, and you're going to tell me, nobody is going to sit there and tell me that this woman doesn't know anything. She's brilliant. And she's been studying this for years. Brilliant woman.
You're shaming me now, Jill. Stephanie was on this program about 2.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that's a long time ago. And I think we did 25 or 30 minutes. And it's shaming me this because she is terrific, Stephanie. And sure. I must invite her back on and do a longer segment. Let me just remind our listeners. Jill Henderson is an author and journalist, and she's on as a line to us from Missouri. And if this interests you, if you do have a garden and you do, or you have if you have a plot where you grow food, an allotment they call them in the UK, The Healing Power of Kitchen Herbs, or The Garden Seed Saving Guide might be a book for you, written by Jill. The Garden Seed Saving Guide, available at all good online bookshops, Amazon, but you can check out hendersonneftook.wordpress.com. Jill, what did Bayer or Bayer, now I know all about that company historically, what did that mean? This is a two-pronged question. What did that mean when they acquired Monsanto? What did it mean for human health, the implications, number one? And number two, a company like Bayer with its own history taking over Monsanto, doesn't that, how do I say this? Doesn't that justify or back up everything that people like you have been saying for years about what's really going on here? Why our food is as bad and as toxic as it is? Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. I think it's an interesting transaction. I think it was interesting to see Bayer buy up Monsanto. And the reason that I think it happened was, Monsanto was ready to sell because I think they knew they were kind of at an end game. And they had so many lawsuits and so much controversy over this particular technology and this particular herbicide. And they made a fortune. Trust me, they have made billions and billions and billions of dollars. There is no doubt about that. And I think what we're looking at now is, I think the reason that Bayer bought them is because they're a chemical company and they intend to, profit off of the continuation of all of Monsanto's research into herbicides, pesticides, and genetic manipulation. But in the same token, I think we're looking at a new evolution of genetic modification. And this is probably going to make the GMOs as we know them obsolete at some point. The new technology that they're really crowing about right now is called CRISPR, and that's CRISPR. And that stands for clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats, right? So that's a long one. Now, this CRISPR technology, what they're saying is that the FDA and other governments, food, boards around the world are not going to label this as genetic modification. And basically, they're taking snippets of the genetic code of any organism and they're repeating them over and over. So they're not actually injecting genes from other species at this point with CRISPR. They're taking the genes of, let's say you have lettuce and you have a curly lettuce and they want to make it extra curly. So they go in and they find a little snippet of gene that makes the lettuce curly, and they just keep repeating it over and over until they get the curliness that they want. Well, they're going to be able to do a lot more with CRISPR. And I think that they're going to try to evolve all of the, what we call, genetic modification over into a new type of bioscience. And I might say, you asked about Illuminati Agenda 21, and I believe it also has to do a lot with artificial intelligence. And I think it, they're talking about, they are putting it in humans now. So why not put it in plants?
Why not put it in the plants? Yeah, why not put it in the food? You're talking, right. It's almost like James Bond villain type stuff. But, and some people might say that, because we will have listeners and they'll be like, I'm not buying this. Hold on a second. You're talking about a company that is in the process of becoming. It's merged with Bayer. This is a company that's eventually, its end game, its stated desire is to basically become the only provider and the sole owner of seeds and seed life and basically food on this planet. That's what it wants to do. It makes no secret of that. It
definitely does. And with that merger, I think it's something like, I don't remember the exact percentage, but I think it's almost half of the world's seeds and herbicide production are going to come out of this Bayer-Monsanto merger. Because remember, we still have companies like BASF, DuPont, and Syngenta to deal with. They are also in the chemical seed business. Another thing about Monsanto that Bayer was interested in too is, and this is what a lot of people do not understand, is that for the last 20 years, Monsanto's been going around buying up tons and tons of little family and independent seed companies. So they literally own just hundreds and thousands of small independent seed companies whose names they retained, yet they're under the umbrella of Monsanto. And they did that in part to reduce competition, but primarily to gain genetic DNA, to actually consolidate the genetic information of food crops from around the world. And you can ask Vandana Shiva about that. She is my Shiro. She is someone I have followed for many, many years and long respected. And she will tell you exactly the same thing. It's a consolidation of our food system and through the manipulation and control and patenting of seeds.
Brilliant point you made there about all those subsidiaries. It's incredible, really. And, we've talked,
it's shocking.
horrendous. And we've talked before with Dean about, the financial institutions of the world and the thousands and thousands of subsidiary companies they own as well. It's a spider's web. It's horrendous. And to be talking to you, Jill, in 2018, and Americans like you, activists and journalists like you, are still fighting for to make it compulsory for these people to tell you what's in the food they're giving you. It's an outrage. I mean, it's an outrage that, and shouldn't that wake Americans up and people all over the world? What are they hiding?
Yeah, it's really shocking. I mean, I just talked to one of my best friends the other night. This is so strange. And she said, I said something about, glyphosate. And I was telling her about something I just learned. And she said, I just heard about that on the TV. And I said, you just heard about it? You've been hearing me talk about it for years. But it was like, until she heard it from mainstream media, it didn't even seem real to her. Again, like they think that this is all a big conspiracy theory, and I can guarantee you that it's not. There have been hundreds of thousands of well-documented, done research on this very topic. And I think the reason I talk about, I'm mentioning Dr. Seneff's name over and over, is because she is the one who actually connected the dots in terms of exactly how glyphosate was acting inside the human body. And not just the human body, but the plant body and the animal body. And when we eat those things, the plants and the animals that are just bioaccumulated, all these fake glyphosate proteins, it stops our own bodies from producing glycine, because we have all these receptors in our bodies that need glycine, and glyphosate fakes out and puts this glycate in its place, so the body can't function properly.
Jill, can I ask you a quick question?
It stops all kinds of other processes. There's no doubt about it. If you're sick and they're throwing pills at you and you're not getting better, you need to take a look at this, and you need to change some things about your diet, make some radical changes. And Dr. Seneff gives us some examples of how to detox our bodies.
Yeah, I'm going to get her back on real soon. Glycine, you've mentioned several times. I did biology in high school. I wasn't the most marvelous student when it came to biology. Would I be right in saying that glycine is important when it comes to reproduction?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Glycine is a protein. It's a proteinogenic amino acid. Basically, it's an amino acid that is derived from proteins. And as you know, proteins are the fuel for the body, right? They say if you're feeling sluggish, you need to consume proteins. Proteins make multiple types of cellular structure in the body: muscle, collagen, ligaments, I did the whole thing. And you were talking about that running belly, having a little belly, even though you run 5 miles a day.
Yeah.
Well, obesity is a big one, because fat is where the body tries to store these toxins because it can't expel them from the body. And it's because our bodies can't process it, and it's hiding in the fat. Our bodies can't burn that fat either, because they don't know what to do with it. So you're seeing a lot of people with this sort of extra belly. They're trying to lose weight, but it's the belly. And that's where most of our fats go, because that's where our hormones lie. Like women who go through menopause often get like a little bit of a belly, and you hear them complain about it all the time. And, most people say, don't worry too much about it, because a little bit of fat helps you balance your hormones. But when the fat's not working because it's filled with this fake protein that looks like glycine to the body, but it can't utilize it, then you can't make the appropriate hormones. So we're looking at infertility issues. We're looking at issues dealing with the prostate. Women have a type of gland that's it's like the prostate, but it's called the skein. And so you're having those kinds of issues. It's also affecting the pineal gland in our brains, which again, there's serotonin, melatonin, all kinds of hormones produced by the pineal gland in our brain. And hormones are a big one. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of people struggling with these autoimmune disorders too, because when your hormones are out of whack, your immune system is also out of whack.
I've had a number of tweets, one from JP, who eats properly and is doing well. He's got a 30-inch waist, and that's good. I mean, I'm not to dwell on me because I'm not important, but I'm 6 foot 6 inches tall. I'm very tall, and I'm trying to speak in your terms here now, Jill. I weigh about 16 stone, just over, so it's about 185 pounds, and my waist size is 34 inches. It is. Wow. It's brilliant. However, I've got the overhang. It just makes no sense. I'm not eating, lots of sweets or candy, as you'd say, or chocolate, or none of that. Not eating, a lot of potato chips. No, I'm not. I'm out doing my running, and in the afternoon I'm out walking the dogs, about 8 to 9 kilometres between running and walking, and I've got the bloody overhang. Like, what's that about? I know you've confirmed what I suspected. Yeah. That's my excuse.
I think a lot of people are dealing with various issues like that, and I think I would like to just kind of give people, first of all, a little bit of an overview. I mean, you can have Roundup in your environment, whether your country grows genetically modified foods or not. It's used extensively on lawns. You can buy it over the counter. People spray dandelions with it. They spray it in parks. They spray it on greenways. They spray it in ball fields. Anywhere, if you look at grass and there are no weeds growing in it, stay off of it. Stay away from it. Don't touch it. because you're going to get that glyphosate on you. If you lay on the grass, sit on the grass, it gets on your clothes, it's going to wind up in you. Plus it comes up in the dust, in the air, and it blows all around. But there are some ways that you can detox from it. If you are suffering from something that you are not able to get a handle on, whether that's some obesity or diabetes, or you're having fertility issues, or your children has, say, attention deficit disorder or autism, or you're having problems sleeping, for example, people who have sleep disorders, this is all directly related to glyphosate and other pesticide exposure. And just remember, if glyphosate is added to other chemicals, it potentiates it. It makes it stronger. It makes it more dangerous. So you're seeing glyphosate being mixed with lots of other herbicides and pesticides these days. And it's also used as a fungicide. And as a matter of fact, actually, I just read a thing about Italy, up in the Alps of the Italian Alps, where they're growing all these apples. It's a huge commodity for the EU. And there's a big fight going on right now with the original villages there that were just subsistence farming. And now they have these apple orchards that they spray with Roundup, because sometimes they spray fruit to desiccate the leaves and to harvest them or to dry the fruit up a little bit. It's everywhere. It's pervasive. But the main thing is for people is to remember is to try to eat only organic food. And organic's kind of an iffy thing. I mean, the label organic in America is regulated by the FDA. But what I would like to tell people is to get to know their farmers. Find some farmers that you think that are saying that they're growing things the right way, and go visit them. Go see how they're growing the food and buy from them. Find people that you can trust. If you eat meat, find a farmer who's raising the kind of meat that you want. And if it's like a big animal like a cow or a hog, well, you can go in shares with other people to buy the whole animal and have it processed the way you want it. And just make sure that they're raising it without these kinds of pesticides and herbicides on their property. Also, if you live in an urban area with a lot of people around, and if there are little lawns or things or gardens in people's yards, talk to your neighbors. Ask them if they're spraying glyphosate or what other kinds of things that they're spraying in their yard, and ask them not to, or help them find other ways to deal with the situations they're having instead of spraying. And if they won't do it, then just ask them not to spray it when you're around, to let you know when they're going to be spraying so you can leave the area. So those are kind of good ways to kind of escape some of that exposure.
Viable solutions, yeah.
What's that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying these are viable solutions. These aren't difficult things to do.
No, they're not. And there's some other things as far as like health choices or food choices. I think improving your diet to the point where you get enough fiber and stuff in your diet, which is like lots of fruits and vegetables, that you're having 3 bowel movements a day. Because here's the thing, and then this is kind of awkward, but urinating and defecating are ways that the body rids itself of toxins. And if you're having 2 or 3 bowel movements a day, you're helping rid yourself of these fake proteins so your body doesn't try to store them somewhere else in your body. And same thing with urine. And when they test people, that's where they find it. They find glyphosate in urine and in animals and people. They've tested people all over the world, and they're finding almost 100% exposure, at least in the United States where they're doing this testing. So there's some things that you can do. You can also detox your liver and detox your kidneys, and however you like to do that. But eat a lot of probiotics. Use activated charcoal to help absorb toxins from your digestive tract and expel them through excretion. Use humic acid and fulvic acid, which are they're found in soil, so they're natural probiotics. Sauerkraut juice or anything that's fermented, like kefir, yogurt, there's any number of them. Sauerkraut, fermented pickles, farmer's cheese or fresh homemade cheese. All of those things have probiotics in them, and they have bacteria that help improve the flora of the gut. And that's really what you want to do. You want to focus on improving the flora of the gut so that your body can try to process these fake proteins and the glyphosate as quickly as possible and get them out of your system.
Jill, this is great stuff. We're just about out of time. I didn't want to miss mentioning your own blog, which is Show Me Oz. showmeoz.wordpress.com. Oz is O-Z, by the way. Show Me Oz is like Show Me Ozark, I suppose. Showmeoz.wordpress.com is where you'll find Jill, and you'll get links to her own books on this subject. She's also co-written Illuminati Agenda 21 with Dean, which is a terrific read. It's very important. It's the book of the year, I think. It really is. It knits all this together and explains it. So check that out. Amazon, best place, but go to showmeoz.wordpress.com. There are links there to these books as well. I'm really glad you came on today to talk about this, Jill, because it's been a while since I tackled this particular subject, and I've picked up an awful. Listen, I've learned a lot today. I really have, and I look forward to you coming back in the very near future yourself. And in the meantime, I'm going to drop your friend Stephanie Seneff, who was on this program a couple of years ago, a line and invite her back on as well. But I'd like to do this ongoing, and these solutions that you were talking about at the end, I'd like to introduce this more to the program, and if you'd like to be a part of that, it'd be an honour to have you on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Richie. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it, and hope to get to talk to you again soon, and have folks come visit me at showmeoz.wordpress.com if they want to read more about this and how to save seed and how to garden organically. I'll be happy to help.
Brilliant, Jill. Thanks so much for that. The amazing Jill Henderson, showmeoz.wordpress.com. That's the blog. That's where you'll find Jill, showmeoz.wordpress.com. Check it out. I'll make a tweet about it in a couple of minutes as well. Log on to it and follow Jill's articles and the blog there. And there's links to the books as well. That's about it for the programme today. Massive thanks to Jill for coming on, and to Posie Parker, who was on the programme in the first hour. Jill Henderson and Posie Parker are guests today. I'll be back with you on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. British summertime, what's left of it, with Sunday View, looking over the newspapers, the Sunday broadsheets and tabloids here in the UK. Until then, you look after yourselves and one another. Have a terrific weekend. Do break away from it if you can. It's vitally important to do that. I know I do say that from time to time. It's vitally important to get away from it and give yourself a break from the news and thinking about these things as well, if you can do that. Some terrific guests lined up for you next week. Jordan Maxwell will be back on the programme. Might not be next week. It might be the week after next. A week on Monday, a week on Tuesday. Paul Craig Roberts will be back on the programme. A lot of you asking me to get Paul back on as well. A pretty full week booked in for next week already. Have a good one. Leaving you with the journey. This is Don't Stop Believing. All right. Marvellous. I'll see you on Sunday then. Bye for now. Bye now.